It's Halloween season again, and that means that ghosts, ghouls, and monsters are popping up everywhere. But recently, one creature in particular has been a buzz all across the country. I'm talking about zombies, the shambling, moaning cash cow that is the living dead. From the box office to the bookshelf, it's easy to see that Americans love to be terrified, and it's easy to see why they would be. Those mass hordes prey on our deepest fears of people, overpopulation, and horror. The thought of your friends and neighbors coming back as the hungry undead would shake any man. But that's all just science fiction, right? Believe it or not, there are some scientists out there who would have you believe that zombie-like creatures are not only plausible, but more likely than most people would ever imagine. In this report, we'll look at some eye-opening studies and reports in nature, magic, and science to explore a world once reserved to a Hollywood studio. This is Dr. Mercer, a parasitologist at Oxford University. Dr. Mercer looks at several different types of parasites, including the one that we are interested in, Toxoplasma gondii.
What is Toxoplasma gondii?
Well, Toxoplasma gondii is a parasite that is usually found in the digestive system of cats, for this is the only place that it can breed, and it has developed a rather odd system of getting there. The parasite will shed eggs, which are picked up by rats, which will eventually be eaten by cats. The curious part is that while rats normally naturally avoid places that have traces of cat urine, those infected with TG will actually seek out those areas and wait to be eaten. The parasite will actually alter the mind of the rat to be eaten for its own benefit.
While this may seem insignificant to you now, scientists have found that nearly half of the world's population is infected with toxoplasma. In recent studies, Dr. Torrey, the Associate Director of Lab Research at Stanley Medical Research Institute, found links between toxoplasma and schizophrenia in human beings. The parasite has been found to do damage to areas of the brain that lead to schizophrenia, and they have found that the drugs used to treat schizophrenia also have an effect on the growth of parasites. Separately, a parasitologist at Charles University in Prague gave participants a psychological questionnaire that yielded surprising results. He found that those infected with the parasite tended to be more insecure, and that infected men in particular seemed to be more jealous and suspicious. While this parasite may not be of any concern in terms of zombies, it does suggest that humans are not immune from the effects of symptoms.
Now, Toxoplasma is not the only parasite that we see manipulating behavior in animals. For example, the Uroplorchus californiensis causes fish to jump out of the water to be eaten by wading birds, and hairworms infect grasshoppers, destroying parts of their central nervous system and causing them to jump into pools of water and drown themselves.
Most people who are knowledgeable on the subject know that zombies originated not as the way they are portrayed in a George A. Romero film, but as part of a voodoo tradition in West African cultures. Never has there been more media buzz about it than in the case of Clairvius Narcissa. To get more information, I decided to seek out and sit down with Narcissa's lawyer. So tell me about your client.
Well, Narcissa was a Haitian man who was declared dead by two doctors on May 2nd, 1962, after he was admitted to Port-au-Prince Hospital with malnutrition, high fever, and some muscle problems. This was nothing special, but villagers were shocked when he was found shuffling barely alive 18 years later. But unfortunately, Narcissa's story is not an uncommon one. He had, in essence, been zombified and set to work on a sugar plantation. Zombie powder was used, which was originally used to punish criminals in tribal societies. It's a little understood mixture containing several neurotoxins, including, tetrostromonium, tetrodotoxin, and bufotoxin.
And what do those do?
The later two chemicals found in pufferfish and certain frogs, respectively, are used to originally kill the victim, effectively shutting down the body. It is the former tetrostromonium, or the zombie's cucumber, that is used to enslave them. Tetrostromonium contains tropane alkaloids that induce a psychotic state. Continued doses of this keeps a human being confused, docile, and manipulatable.
So what are the implications of this kind of action?
The idea of an army of captured and controlled humans is an unsettling idea. While no one has ever, that we know of, attempted to mobilize humans in this kind of condition, the prospects of the original zombie remain almost as terrifying as the modern interpretation.
When people think about zombies, they usually think of slow, shambling, mindless creatures, the preferred zombies if there were an outbreak. But then there's the other the kind no one wants, fast zombies. Chances are, if you've been going to the movies lately, you've seen this new take on the classic zombie. Films like 28 Days Later and Quarantine rely on humans infected with a rapidly spreading and infecting rabies-like virus. While this may seem far-fetched, we've experienced viruses with symptoms that read more like a Max Brooks book than a medical journal. Dr. King, an expert on infectious diseases, sat down with us to talk about one in particular.
One disease in particular called Creutzfeldt-Jakob, or in English, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD, a type of brain damage that affects about 1 in every million people. It's strikingly similar. Related to mad cow disease, which is acquired through ingestion, of course, and able to spread through transplants and from infected donors, the symptoms include the following: rapidly developing delirium or dementia, blurred vision, changes in gait or the way one walks, hallucination, lack of coordination, muscle twitching and stiffness, and personality changes. As of now, scientists have found no way to effectively treat or cure CJD. While this disease on its own does not cause zombies, it shows that we are susceptible to a strain that might. While it has not had rage-like effects on humans, scientists have seen strains of similar viruses cause friendly rats to turn and kill each other.
So we've been through 3 areas of zombie research, and we are yet to come across the actual reanimation of dead tissue as seen in most modern zombie portrayals. For that, we must turn to modern exploratory science, particularly in the area of neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is the process in which neurons are generated. They are most active during the prenatal period, and they are essentially what scientists are exploring in stem cell research. In 2005, scientists at Novosibirsk State Medical Academy in Russia used cell transplantation in therapy to reanimate severely head-injured patients. These patients, who had suffered various diseases and injuries that had left them vegetated, were operated on with surprising results. In 33 out of 38 of the trials, the patients were successfully awakened and were able to perform simple tasks within a week of surgery, with their mental activity gradually increasing over the following months. 3 more were awakened but weren't able to rehabilitate, and the other 2 were awakened but died of complications. This success spawned much controversy and excitement overseas, but the story didn't really break in the U.S. In a 2005 study, scientists at the Safar Center for Resuscitation Research at the University of Pittsburgh were successfully able to put dogs in a state which was clinical death, and were successfully able to bring them back to a state of suspended animation through cryogenic freezing. In what is a sure irony, reanimation and zombification may be used to save and prolong life, not to terminate it. So, while there may not be reason to run and stock up on food and ammo just yet, there are definitely some bizarre and captivating scenarios out there. In a recent study by the Infectious Diseases Modeling Research Progress, researchers estimated that in the event of a zombie-like outbreak, humans would fare very poorly. They estimated that any given major city would be overwhelmed in 3 to 4 days, and after that, it all depends on the government reaction and ability. So, it may be more important than you think to ask, what would you do in the event of a zombie outbreak?